Forget what you think you know about the Holden Monaro, because in 1976, Holden did something completely unexpected. They took their most famous muscle car, stripped it of its name, and gave it a luxury makeover that broke all the rules. This is a story of the last of the classic Holden coupes, and one they called the limited edition. But before we go on any further, I would like to say that the idea for this video came from a couple of comments I received following my HQ SS video. So I'd like to give a quick shout out and again a big thank you to Area 51 Israel 71 and also to Daryl Linda Cullen. Now let's get on to the car. In 1968, when Joe Szymanski's team designed the original Monaro as part of the new HK Holden generation, it made a significant splash. This was helped by the fact that Holden was selling an unprecedented number of cars, roughly 2.5 times more than Falcons and over 3 times more than Valiants. But the Monaro wasn't just a fastback roof grafted onto a sedan body like the Valiant hardtop. It was a more integrated and visually striking design, setting it apart from its competitors. The Monaro's image was also certainly heightened by its Bathurst victories. In 1968 with the GTS 327 and 69 with the GTS 350, carving out a name for itself as a great Australian muscle car. While the GTS 350 was ultimately outmanoeuvred by the Falcon GTHO sedans in 1970, these early wins definitely cemented its legendary status. Then in 1970, Holden made the decision to race the smaller, lighter and more affordable Tirana, which was likely aimed to attract younger buyers. However, the move inadvertently contributed to a percentage of the subsequent HQ generation Monaro as being softer and less performance orientated. Although a GTS 350 version still remained in the HQ lineup, it was equipped with a detuned version of the imported Chevrolet L48 350 or 5.7 litre V8, the same small block as found in the 1967 and 68 Camaro SS. Unlike earlier high-performance versions, this engine featured a lower compression ratio, 8.5:1, with a power rating of approximately 270 horsepower, so delivering no real performance gain over the domestically produced 308 cubic inch or 5 litre V8, which was rated at 275 horsepower. Sales of the HQ GTS 350 Monaro reflected this reduction in performance, with fewer than 900 units sold in just over 3 years. Adding to this, the HQ's significant understeer actively discouraged spirited drivers, essentially forcing its drivers to take it easy. While the Holden HQ Monaro coupe was launched in 1971, Holden later expanded the lineup to a 4-door Monaro GTS in 1973, thanks to the earlier success of the HQ SS sedan introduced in 1972, which had shown a strong demand for a V8 powered sports sedan. The 4-door Monaro was a major success and quickly surpassed the coupe in sales, reflecting the public's growing preference for a more practical yet still powerful performance car. This highlighted the significant shift in consumer preferences, because out of the 485,650 HQ Holdens produced over its 3-year 4-month run, only 13,872 were Monaro coupes. Then in 1974, the HJ Monaro arrived with a squarer front end, though the coupe, unlike the sedans, still retained its original rear end. Notably, the 1-tonner kept the same front end design from the earlier HQ range, and for this series only 943 Monaro coupes were produced, a significantly lower number. The introduction of the more refined and luxurious trim of the HJ Monaro LS in October 1974 marked the model's shift to a more refined Grand Tourer status. Although initial sales for the HQ Monaro had been strong, they eventually declined, with the LS trim signalling this evolving market. Now, this is where things start to get interesting. The story goes that Holden removed the hardtop coupe from the dealer sales network, but manufacturing wasn't informed, so the production line kept building them. This then resulted in Holden having a surplus of unsellable coupe bodies. However, the actual fact was that Holden faced a dilemma due to failing sales, leaving them with a surplus of unsellable coupe bodies. This sales decline was demonstrated by the fact that nearly 5 times as many Monaro GTS sedans, or 4,574, were sold during the same period. To resolve this issue, Holden decided to use the leftover bodies to create a unique coupe. a similar strategy to the one Ford would go on to employ a couple of years later with the Falcon Cobra in 1978 to clear its own stock of unsold coupes prior to the launch of the 4-door only XD Falcon. With this excess of coupe bodies, as you might have guessed, head designer Leo Preneur was called upon to create a new model. His mission was to find a creative way to use and sell these surplus coupes, a project that would ultimately become known as the LE or Limited Edition. Initially, Holden's more conservative plan was to simply use the leftover 2-door body shells for a basic clearance model. However, Leo Preneur had bigger ambitions, wanted to create a spectacular final version of the Holden coupe. For this, he found his inspiration for its distinctive colour scheme in Bill Mitchell's personal car, the one-of-a-kind Pontiac Pegasus dream car. The LE went on to directly reference the Ferrari-powered Pegasus with a special shade of red, gold pinstripes and gold wheels. Designed originally by Chevy's Jerry Palmer as a Camaro refresh option with significant Ferrari influence, it was then passed to Pontiac. The Pegasus was built on a 1971 Pontiac Firebird platform. Notice the wheels. This included a Ferrari 365 GTB4 or Daytona V12 engine, Ferrari 5-speed Barana wire wheels and a GM posi traction. It was a one-off design that never saw production and remained Mitchell's private car for quite some time. Preneur also recalled other concepts and show cars from the 70s like Old Man Emu, a car deceptively badged with a 350 decal but actually fitted with a 400 cubic inch big block V8 that he also drew inspiration from. So in 1975, Holden built a one-of-a-kind HJ LE Coupe prototype, and this unique car would pave the way for the HX LE Coupe. This prototype was developed in secret and would be the specific vehicle used to gain management approval for its production. The original car used for this prototype was an HJ GTS taken directly from the production line on the 21st of November 1975. Preneur gave it its distinctive red LE colour and pinstriping, then fitted it with every option available from RTS or radial tuned suspension and striking 15-inch Pontiac gold snowflake wheels with 4-wheel disc brakes. Driving lights were fitted in the bumper bar and the sunroof, which wouldn't go on to make production. To achieve its distinctive red LE colour, he mandated a unique metallic maroon hue, which he had specially mixed by paint stylist Don Frew. It was also a lucky break for the Holden design team, with the new Chuck Chapman management team now at the helm, because their focus had shifted to prioritising quality engineering, and Mitchell's support made the project an easier sell to Holden's more traditional old guard. After receiving the green light, Leo himself modified it further and used it as his own personal car for 2 years, which is highly unusual as executives typically rotated their vehicles every 3 months. The HX Holden Monaro would mark the third iteration of what many consider Australia's greatest locally built muscle car, and largely a styling update of its HJ predecessor. The LE was initially planned as a HJ with around 600 examples commissioned. However, manufacturing delays meant the HX hit the market in July 1976 before the LE could be produced, forcing Holden to re-engineer the LE shells to HX specifications using the new HX compliant V8s. Holden's decision to conclude the Monaro coupe legend with a special limited edition would be echoed with their approach to their final generation VZ model. The LE coupe would mark the end of the original coupe body styles, much like the CV8Z was a send-off for the modern Monaro in 2005. This well-appointed farewell model combined a powerful 308 cubic inch or 5 litre V8 engine from the Monaro GTS with luxurious features from the Statesman, creating a unique parts bin special. This strategic move would not only clear the unused stock for Holden, but would also offer a new, more opulent Monaro variant to the market. Holden had realistic expectations that the initial high demand for this new model Monaro coupe would eventually subside, and never assuming it would remain a market leader indefinitely. By 1976, their thinking was proven correct, as sales for the 2-door coupe had dwindled and a more practical 4-door sports sedan had become the clear buyer's favourite. The Holden HX LE Coupe was released in September 1976, and it's widely considered the spiritual successor to the original Monaro. Even though Holden chose not to use the Monaro name, this car possessed all the key Monaro elements. Holden's decision to not badge it as a Monaro was also a strategic one, facing a declining market for coupes and shifting buyers' preferences towards practical sedans, Holden repositioned the brand. Instead of a traditional muscle car, the LE was marketed as a luxurious limited edition model. This approach both honoured the Monaro's legacy while appealing to the more affluent customer. At this time, Holden was also looking at a number of other options to expand the Monaro range, and interestingly, in 1977 at the Melbourne Motor Show, Holden showcased the remarkable HX GTS Turbo Monaro prototype. This unique vehicle was built for Holden boss John Bradshaw, yet another special created by Leo Pranu, featuring a two-tone blue custom paint job and distinctive blue Firebird snowflake rims. Under the bonnet was a turbocharged 308 cubic inch or 5 litre V8, which could produce around 360 horsepower and served as a trial for a turbocharged L34 V8 engine. It was capable of running low 15-second quarter miles. After its show life concluded, John Bradshaw took the car for his own personal transport, and it still exists today, though no longer with its original turbocharger. Now let's take a look at the HX LE, or model code 8WQ37XR, where 8 is the code for Holden Australia and W signifies the HX series. Q denotes the 308 cubic inch V8 engine. 37 is the body style code for a two-door coupe. X denotes the assembly plant, in this case Pagewood, Sydney, and lastly R, the final letter, is specific to the trim code, in this instance the LE model or limited edition, which despite its Monaro origins carried no Monaro badging, and the name Monaro wasn't even included in any official model designation or documentation. On July 1st, 1976, Australia introduced its first significant exhaust emission laws, known as ADR 27A. The Holden LE would become yet another casualty of these new regulations. The measures Holden took to comply were rudimentary by today's standards and came at a cost, affecting the car's performance. Complying with these new rules, both the HX series and LE's 308 cubic inch or 5 litre V8 would be heavily modified, resulting in a noticeable power drop, falling from 179 kilowatts or 240 horsepower to 161 kilowatts or 216 horsepower, making the V8 feel sluggish compared to the earlier unrestricted models. Under the bonnet, the HX LE had the L31 308 cubic inch or 5 litre V8 engine, code QT, with 4-barrel Rochester 4MV carburettor running to a dual exhaust system with chrome extensions. It had a compression ratio of 9.7 to 1 and produced 216 horsepower. Fuel was supplied by an underslung, isolated 16.5 gallon fuel tank and using external fuel lines. Power was sent to the rear wheels via an M41 THM 400 or turbo hydromatic 3-speed automatic transmission with a console mounted T-bar floor shift, which was exclusive to the LE as there was no manual option for this car. This ran to a GU4 Salisbury 10-bolt limited slip differential with a 308 to 1 ratio. In a January 1977 review, Motor Manual magazine praised the new Holden Sunbirds RTS or radial tuned suspension while also testing the LE. Despite criticising its finish and the emissions compliant V8 engine, the magazine concluded, in concept, the LE appears to be a fantasy of a dying coupe, granted its last wish before it goes. It has a reasonable ride, fair handling, overlight and 2 sudden power steering, very much a car of its time. In their review, the magazine recorded a standing quarter mile time of 17.3 seconds, with a 0 to 60 mile an hour time in 8.8 seconds and a top speed of 119 miles per hour. For a car weighing 3,556 pounds, not too shabby. Stopping was by 11-inch disc brakes at the front and 10-inch drums at the rear, utilising a tandem brake master cylinder or dual servo with a split hydraulic circuit. The suspension featured independent coil springs and telescopic shocks at the front and a 4-link design with coil springs and telescopic shocks at the rear. The HX LE ultimately became a unique blend of prestige features and readily available high-performance parts. All LEs were finished in an exclusive metallic colour called LE Red or sometimes Burgundy, a metallic crimson maroon colour paint code 567-17918, where 567 denotes it as a metallic paint and 17918 being a specific colour code for LE Red. The unique look of the Holden HX LE was defined by its contrasting gold pinstriping, which was originally painted on Fisher paint code 7015 using a paint mask kit. These pinstripes were painted along the guards and doors, culminating in the LE emblems. These gold accents were also featured on the front air dam, rear spoiler and trunk lid, creating a distinctive design. Finished off with exclusive LED decals placed on the rear quarter panels and trunk lid, driver's side above the turn indicator. This gold pinstriping and decal combination was specific to the HX LE model. Also featured were colour-coded sports mirrors, black rubber bumper inserts, but notably it lacks either a blacked out boot or bonnet sections. The LE package also introduced a colour-keyed front air dam with integrated front brake cooling ducts and a rear spoiler, both borrowed from the GTS Monaro, blending both luxury with sportiness, which carried over to its 3-slot vented guards, also from the Monaro GTS, plus the 4 headlight HX Premier front end, incorporating 2 quartz halogen high beams, which were the inner lights, a blacked out grille with unique LE grille badge, which replaced the standard Holden emblem. The front end styling also bore more than a resemblance to a smaller scale US specification Chevrolet Caprice. Notably, the Monaro name was absent from the car's badging, a point that leads some enthusiasts to argue that it isn't a true Monaro, despite every other hardtop carrying that name. A distinctive feature of the LE was a US sourced gold code 20317989 7JJ by 14 honeycomb polycast wheels, which rode on ER70 H14 radial ply tyres. The term polycast refers to the method of their construction. The wheels were a 2-part design where a conventional steel rim provided the strength, while a separate styled centre section cast from polymer was permanently bonded to it. Supplied by the Pontiac division of General Motors in the USA and reminiscent of those found on the 2nd generation Pontiac Firebird Trans Am, and oddly enough also a limited edition, and also in 1976. Apart from this revamp, some say that the LE's 1971 HQ coupe style rear felt dated compared to the more modern Eurocentric designs of 1976. For example, the Lotus Esprit, Rover SD1 and BMW 6 Series. As the limited edition name suggests, the HX LE's interior was fully loaded, boasting almost every option Holden offered, much like the luxurious Statesman, featuring a suite of advanced, for 1976, technology. The cabin featured reclining front bucket seats with integrated head restraints. These were upholstered in a plush, crushed velour with chevron plaid cloth inserts and durable vinyl outer bolsters. This same unique trim, a dark reddish brown colour, code 76Z or Cinnabar, exclusive to the LE, was carried on through to the individual rear seats, which also included separate armrests, and intended to align more with the luxurious Statesman as opposed to the sporty Monaro GTS. It also featured the sporty GTS dashboard, but this was softened by a bull walnut wood grain finish fascia, which continued over the centre console and gear sticks around, highlighting its limited edition status. Another luxury sign was the centre console, which held a cigarette lighter for rear seat passengers. The driver's cockpit was completed by a GTS 3-spoke sports steering wheel with variable ratio power steering as standard. It received a limited edition badge on the glove box, which also held a concealed vanity mirror. To complement its limited edition status was its impressive list of standard equipment, including full instrumentation with an electric clock and air conditioning, power and tinted windows plus heated rear window. Also included was a push button radio with power aerial and a quadraphonic 8-track cartridge player. This was a notable inclusion as it provided a way for Holden to sell off its remaining stock of these outdated units at a time when cassette tapes were quickly becoming the new standard, with cut pile carpeting throughout, which included a fully carpeted boot with integrated cargo guard or luggage compartment barrier. When it comes to safety in cars as old as the LE, the primary systems are the seatbelts. Beyond that, the vehicle featured a collapsible steering column and crumple zones to absorb impact in a collision. This car was truly a top tier package for its time. As its limited edition name suggests, the Holden HX LE was a strictly limited production model, initially planned for 600 units, and as Holden stated, a fact that also protects your investment, and will be produced at the now defunct Pagewood plant in Sydney. Officially, the last coupe of the first generation was the LE, signifying just over 600 were commissioned, though only 580 were ultimately built due to a fire, though some say 606 were built, with 26 being lost in that fire. A facility well known for its low volume assembly of high-end vehicles, making the HX LE collectible from the moment it rolled off the production line. To achieve this, the LE LEs were assembled using existing HJ Monaro bodies in white from late 1975. Against the odds, Holden's move to release approximately 600 LEs was a stroke of genius. It was a rare instance where the company's well-informed experts got their way, resulting in a product that perfectly matched the market demand. The LE's design was a deliberate blend of sportiness and luxury, conceived as a luxurious and prestigious send-off for a body style that was losing popularity, reflecting a shift in market tastes, also being the first Holden to use the distinctive honeycomb polycast wheels from the Pontiac Trans Am. The Holden HX Limited Edition Coupe holds a unique and significant place in Australian automotive history. Although never officially badged as a Monaro, the car is widely considered to be the final iteration of the classic two-door coupe, and so marking the end of an era. Holden's decision to not badge the car as a Monaro was influenced by a shrinking market for two-door coupes and a desire to avoid diluting the Monaro's traditional muscle car image, especially as the name was already being used on Holden's four-door sedans. The LE was greeted with some cynicism by the motoring press and described by Steve Cropley of Wheels as a clearance sales special under the heading Mock Turtle Monaro. This was also a challenging time for Holden because they were not only facing significant competition from rivals like Ford, but the HX series was also being criticised for poor handling and lacklustre performance due to poorly tuned emissions compliant engines. The LE Coupe was such a feel-good car that buyers overlooked the shortcomings of the HX model line. It's a shame that Holden didn't keep more of the old coupe bodies to produce a final super limited HZ version using a new RTS or radial tune suspension. However, fitting the RTS to the old body shells would have been complicated, and Holden's priority at the time was to clear out all the remaining shells by the end of the HX production run. This was due to the fact that Holden was also now focused on the development of the upcoming VB Commodore. The release of the HX LE will signify the end of Holden's coupe lineage, making it the first of the big three Australian manufacturers to discontinue their hardtop coupe models. However, the Monaro name would be temporarily kept alive in the four-door HX GTS sedan, but with the HZ series in 1977, the sedan was simply called GTS and Monaro nameplate was officially retired, not to return until 2001. Originally priced $11,119 Australian dollars, it made it the most expensive car Holden built at that time, as compared to the Monaro GTS sedan at $7,016 Australian dollars. However, although being rare and unique, the LE is not as valuable today as the legendary Bathurst winning models of the late 60s. The Holden HX LE or limited edition coupe was released on the 27th of September 1976. Although initially planned for an August 1976 release, production delays pushed it back. A car designed to be a grand finale of the Monaro line, serving as a fitting send-off to the original concept, it was a truly exceptional, exclusive and custom-built vehicle produced at Holden's Pagewood plant in Sydney, a facility well known for its meticulous, low-volume assembly of luxury cars. Today, the LE remains a highly sought-after classic Holden. Its limited production, luxurious features and its status as a last hurrah for the original Monaro coupe body style contribute to its desirability, and finding a well-preserved original example today can be quite challenging. The HX LE was a car the HJLS should have been, with designer Leo Pranu finally getting his way. His influence is clear in its timeless premium presentation. It embraced what the Monaro had become, a premium grand tourer without any pretense. Although it never carried the official Monaro badge, its connection to the Monaro heritage is undeniable, rightfully celebrated by enthusiasts as a true Monaro and earning it a cherished spot in the Monaro family. The LE marked the end of an era. It effectively served as a swan song for the classic Monaro coupe body style, but like all great superheroes, the Monaro would return, and in 2001 with the V2 series Monaro, but that's another story for another time. Ultimately, the HX LE stands as a crowning glory for the Monaro line. Its success in a challenging market, its blend of luxury and performance, and its unique status as the final coupe of its kind.